Sirianni spoke yesterday at the owners' meeting, shed light on a couple different things. Kind of per usual, Nick, where he doesn't say too much, but I thought he did say a couple things that caught my eye about. He spoke about the coaching staff, obviously the hiring process, too many cooks in the kitchen. He also talked about his conversations with Jalen Hurts and some of the players at this time of the year. Before I muddy it, John, and go to what I thought was interesting. Anything you took away from the head coach's conversation with the media yesterday at the owners' meetings?
HA is a member of the Eagles.
Same line. He must have got the same index card that Howie got, huh?
Yeah. No, I joke. I guess the biggest thing I took from it was Stoutland, because he had the goofy Lane Johnson comment. And, I think Nick was obviously we've moved on with the guys from our staff. So he was talking about the guys who left. So don't expect Jeff Stoutland back. I think that was the most honest part of the conversation. Nothing's changed. AJ's an Eagle, as I mentioned. They do have confidence in Devontae Smith. If he has to be a wide receiver one, which if you listen to the show, you already know that. Did talk about Reek Willen's history and, said we like edgy players and that kind of stuff. We'll see how that works out. Very talented player. I do think, it's astonishing to me. It really is. Like, you got to ask, the conversation with Jalen Hurts in the offseason. And I really think, forget about fans. I think there's a bunch of media people who don't understand you can't talk to these guys about football in the offseason.
Is it legitimately legislated into the?
Yes.
Yeah, that they're not allowed to talk ball and talk playbook, talk none of
No, very, 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 very limited. You're not allowed.
I really understand that, to be honest with you. I don't know that's a necessary rule. I get it is one, but that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The head coach can't talk to his fucking quarterback. He hired a new coordinator. What do you mean he can't talk to his quarterback about it?
The reason, because in the old days, you lose your final game and the quarterback's back in there the next day. I talked about this with John DiFilippo back in the day. It's like you're back in. So if they have they're going to take advantage of it. So, what all the little NFL, and I've said a lot of times, all the little NFLPA wins over the years are never about the money. It's always about the quality of life. It's about, time off and things like that.
Right.
So I'm glad Nick explained, it's important for these guys, he said, to get some time away from us. And the conversations he's had is more about checking in, how everything is going. And then he said, because right now we're limited by league rules in what we can talk. That's, he didn't say by league rules. I'm adding that. And what we can talk to them about, everything like that, But when they get here April 20th, they can start, having those types of discussions. There's plenty of time. But yeah, I think there's a bunch of people I don't think there's a bunch of people. I mean, fans say it all the time, which I get that part of it. Like, somebody comes in to sign their contract, and it's like, I love that the guys are in the building. It's like they're not in the building to do football stuff. Right. They're signing, some guys who live around maybe come to the gym and work out. You can do stuff like that, but they got cameras all over these facilities. If the NFLPA follows agreement, I mean, there's legit, you can't do it. And the NFLPA is, especially if they get a complaint, is going to make a big deal out of it. So I think people need to understand this is not the time they're talking about football. So when you hear about, Saquon, God love him because he's a pro, and he's talking about Sean Mannion's offense is great. Then in the same, he gets a follow-up. Well, what do you like? Well, I don't really know. I haven't talked to him about it. He's not allowed to talk to him about it.
Right.
But
So, answer me this, because it's obvious that the legislation exists. So I'm not pushing back on you on that. But like, can Sean Mannion deliver Jalen the playbook? He can't deliver him anything? Like, he can't even, like, what's the scope of this rule?
the scope of this rule is that's an interesting question. I don't have the answer to that. I maybe is the best I can do. I can ask. But you're not allowed to have discussions about football. Now, I mean, it's like tampering. Is that
Right. Is it going to stop everybody? Right.
yeah. So, but realistic, certainly around the facility, can you text on your personal phone? I don't think the FBI is showing up. So I'm sure there's little things like that. But you certainly can't get together with the offensive coordinator at the facility and go over film and go over the playbook.
Right.
I can tell you that. And most of the guys are on vacation or doing stuff or doing their personal stuff or working out, and a lot of guys are not even in the area because it is their time and they don't want to be bothered with that stuff. But the quarterback's a little bit different, so I get that. But no, not substantive. Not anything of substance. As far as can he send him the playbook? Maybe. I'll try to get an answer to that, but I don't know if anybody knows.
There's no restrictions on the coaches, right? Like Nick and Mannion.
Oh no, they work every day. Yeah,
Yeah.
he'll give them a time off before training camp. That's when he gives them some time. They're there every day. Like right now, they're working on draft stuff. When they come back. Well, coaches are here. Vic was at the Phillies game, obviously. The only ones out there are Jeffrey, Howie, Nick. But they're working.
Vic was at the Phillies game last night. They got clobbered. I think
it might have been 2 days. It was recently.
They got beat last night. I think it was 13-2. I'm like, oh yeah, this could be a long Philly. It's early, but it says off to a bad start for the Phillies.
It's early.
Yeah, I'm not a believer in that team at the moment, John.
They'll figure it out. It's they're going to win 90 plus games, so they'll be.
You think so?
Yeah. Baseball's just, I mean,
it's so long. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the good teams wear you down, and they got good pitching, and they'll be fine. But yeah, I mean, there is, and that's why I kind of chuckled at Saquon because God, like I said, he knows he's doing interviews. Like I said, he's a pro. He knows what people want to hear, and he wants to prop up the new offensive coordinator, and but and it wasn't even out of malice. The guy doing the interview probably doesn't understand the rules either, and he's like, "Well, what do you like about it?" He's like, "Well, I don't really know." He doesn't. It's not that time, and there'll be plenty of time for that. So and it's no different than every other team. You're not allowed to do that anymore.
Yep, that's a big part of it. John, Nick Sirianni also spoke, about the hiring of the coaching staff. I thought there were some interesting, kind of very Nick-esque answers. But I happen to think the topic itself is interesting, where they have all these different coaches. They interviewed 17 different candidates, and 3 of them ended up hired. One of them became the offensive coordinator. One of them became the pass game coordinator, and one of them became the a senior offensive assistant, I believe, is what Jerrod Johnson or Jerrod Johnson's role is. So I thought Nick's answer on that was interesting. Where whenever you get an opportunity to add a good coach, I've never thought it was a bad thing to add that. But do you personally, John, believe that there is some credence to the thought process that maybe there's too many cooks in the kitchen?
No. Simply now, I think there's too many assistant coaches in the NFL. I think it's gotten ridiculous. Right. Now, God bless them. I mean, I don't want to begrudge people good jobs in their chosen profession, but I mean, there's so many different titles and roles. But it's another thing. I think a lot of people don't understand. I mean, it's very structured. You know, Sean Mannion's the offensive coordinator. It's not, and we went through this last year with it. We've gone through multiple years. You know, when Kellen Moore was here and they were struggling. Oh, Nick's taking over, and when he's doing well, oh, Kellen's doing it, and it's like, and that's just offensive coordinator, head coach. Last year, you had the Leffler stuff, the weird stuff, the Leffler stuff, and it's like, look, that's coming from people who just don't understand how the NFL works. I mean, the quarterback's coach isn't getting involved with whatever they claimed he was involved with. That's just not how it works. Now, you know, it's collaborative, but it's a flow chart. Everything goes up. So, I mean, it's not like Josh Grizzard is stepping in to talk to Jalen Hurts on a daily basis. That's, you know, the guy who works with him and runs the quarterback room is going to be Parks Frazier. And the guy who runs the offensive meetings and is going to be in charge of the whole offense and is going to be very hands-on with the quarterback, presumably, we're told, is Sean Mannion. You know, Jerrod Johnson's going to do special projects like Jim Bob Cooter when he was here. And that's basically, you know, if you want, and it's probably a favor, to be honest, you know, because things went bad in Houston with CJ Stroud. And it was late in the process. And, you know, the last thing you want as a young coach is to hold on the resume. You're not going to sit out for a year. So if you think about it over the years with Jim Bob Cooter, just with Nick, when Marcus Brady came in, people probably forget that he got fired in Indianapolis, and Nick had a history with him, and he brought him in as a consultant. Then he had an actual role the next year, and then he was gone. They've done it for years, and they'll continue to do it. And that is why Jerrod Johnson's here, to be honest. And, you know, if things go well, you know, maybe he sticks around with a promotion. But of course, if things go really well, Sean Mannion's going to be out of here. So then the whole thing is opened up again. But you get my point. If it's just a 1-year stopover and he's going to get a quarterback's job or an offensive coordinator job next year, yeah, to me it shakes out as a Jim Bob Cooter, Marcus Brady like favor.
Yeah, and Nick, by the way, Nick acknowledged that yesterday, what you just talked about, that they could lose Sean Mannion after 1 year if they have any semblance of success.
Yeah. And then they'll have the same, and you have guys on staff now immediately, because that hasn't worked before, you know, Brian Johnson for Shane Steichen, Kevin Patullo for Kellen Moore. People will not want Josh Grizzard, Parks Frazier, Jerrod Johnson, but to have that ability on your own staff, that's the goal, to want to promote people. Just hasn't worked here. But I think that has more to do with the difficulty of following up on Super Bowl seasons.
John, I do think it's relevant and interesting for Nick to manage it though this year. You know, I have no problem with having a bunch of coaches. I think that's a good thing. I mean, to have a lot of guys, but I do think the management and the delegation and establishing clear roles, which Nick referenced yesterday, is going to be an important part of Nick Sirianni's job. I mean, you want people to know exactly what they're supposed to be doing and not have people feeling like their toes are getting stepped on, you know, if they're in another part. So I do think that's actually a big role for Nick this year to try and manage that. I think Nick's done a pretty good job at it in the past, but, you know, a lot of people out there think Nick is a dumbass, John, for whatever reason. You know, they say that all the time. So I do think Nick has to be on top of that, though. You have a lot of guys. You have a young play caller, you know, who's never called plays, who has guys around.
That's the only thing. That's the only thing I would agree with. They have a young, unproven play caller.
Right.
Now, the roles are very defined. They have been here. Every single role has been here. Very defined. Passing game.
Sticking to that role is different than defining the said role. You know.
Well, yeah, and that has to do with, if you want to go back to Sean Desai, which is the last time they've done this, And you could make the argument that they brought these guys in as an insurance policy, which they did with Matt Patricia and Sean Desai, and that you saw how that worked out. Now, there's a little bit of difference in that I think Matt Patricia had a higher profile, to say the least, than Josh Grizzard and Jerrod Johnson. So, that's a former head coach. That's a Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator. Everybody knew who Matt Patricia was and what his resume was. And it just looked obvious that he was there as the safety net, and obvious turned into Occam's razor. Yes, it was true. That's why he was there. Is that why Josh Grizzard is here? I don't think so. Is that why Jerrod Johnson's here? I don't think so. But there will be people that think that, especially if Sean Mannion starts to struggle.
Will be interesting to see what happens.